Okay, thank you. It's great to be here. Nice to see familiar faces, but also some new ones. Yeah, I mean, Paolo, thanks for the introduction. You gave a very detailed overview, so I won't bore you with more details. As Paolo said, we are a market research company. As well as a consultancy. And this is actually the ninth study that we have conducted. So every year we pick a topic that we feel is relevant to the hospitality tech area. And yeah, then we get different sponsors together and interview hotel chains. So very important. This is a study that was conducted solely for hotel chains. So any independent properties are not included in our results here today. Yeah, anyway, so we get the feedback from the hotel chains, and then we put together a very detailed report that is then shared with the sponsors. So last year, so this study that we did was conducted in 2025. So last year, we launched the survey in April last year, and then the results were published in October. So thanks again to all the sponsors. Some of you are here online as well, so great to have you here. And I'm going to be talking about just some of the findings, also very specifically geared towards the European figures, since this is the main focus of this group. But if you want to find out and get more details on some of the findings that we have, then feel free to download the full tech report. It won't include all the findings, but at least the publicly available ones. And you can do that either via the QR code, or you can also navigate to our website and join there. Yeah, and with that, I think we're ready to dive in. First of all, just wanted to give you a brief overview of the different or the methodology and a bit of the participating hotel chains. So in total, we had 171 hotel chains participating globally, and 70% were small chains. So a small chain for us is everything between 3 and 20 properties. Then we had 19% being medium-sized chains. So that is everything from 21 to 99 properties. And then we also had 11% of large chains participating. Those aren't any of the mega chains, but larger chains that have above 100 properties. So across all participants, the average size is 65 properties per company, and they have around 116 rooms per property. And if we look at the regional split here, Europe is by far the largest market in our sample, so representing 64% of the properties. And if we look at rooms, it's 56% of rooms. And then we have 20% of properties belonging to the Americas, followed by the Middle East with 9%, and then APAC with 8%. So in total, the study covers 11,000 properties and nearly 1.3 million rooms worldwide. And then on the right-hand side, you can also view the respondent profiles. So mainly the participants were in the area of revenue distribution, commercial executives, IT, tech. Those are the people that responded to the survey. Okay, and without further ado, let me now jump into the findings itself. So, as you all very much know, AI has arrived in the hotel industry. 78% of the hotel chains are using AI in their operations. And for Europe, that number is actually at 86%. And even more exciting is then the outlook, with 89% planning to add further applications over the next month. And only a very small share, 3%, say that they have no plans at all to adopt AI. I wonder if that has changed since last year. But looking at Europe, that percentage only stands at 2%. And if we then look at the current usage, chatbots are leading the way with 42% of hotel chains already using them. So that supports guest communication. And you can see the European figures behind it, so 43, so there's not much different there from the global average and the European average. And looking at the most planned AI applications, 50% of the hotel chains see customer data management actually as their next major step on where to implement AI. And we also asked about where AI creates the greatest value and there we had 78% of the hotel chains saying that business intelligence is actually the area with the highest impact. Yeah, and as you can see, for those areas, the European figures also don't stand out as much here. Okay, so our very first questions when we started the survey was about the trust and the reliance of the participant in AI. So across all the chain sizes, trust in AI averaged out at 6.6 out of 10. But then if we look at reliance, we can see that is much lower at 4.7. And Europe is broadly in line with the global average, and really only the big differences here are that large chains show slightly lower trust in AI, and medium-sized chains also rely less on AI. So this shows while hoteliers are generally open to AI, they still seem to be cautious about making it a core part of their operations. And when we asked hotel chains about their biggest challenges in adopting AI and automation, one issue stood out very clearly, which was the lack of AI expertise and skills, which was mentioned by 62% of the respondents. So in Europe, this was mentioned by 60%. And actually, in comparison to the Americas, this was mentioned by 76%, so a 16 percentage point difference here. The second major barrier is the absence of a clear AI strategy or roadmap, so which was highlighted by 51%. And really that highlights the fact that long-term planning is still often missing in the hotel chains. Integration challenges with existing systems also weigh heavily at 45%, followed then by budget constraints at 39%. And however, only 28% of the EU respondents mentioned this. So the region that really pushed this so high was actually APAC, where 60% mentioned this as a barrier. And interestingly, the organizational resistance to change ranks lower at 31%. So, which means that the human barrier owes only about half as significance as the skills gap. And the rest of the concerns like data security and privacy, uncertainty about ROI, and data quality issues also ranked quite high here. This chart highlights how the hotel chains perceive the value that AI brings across different areas. And there were no notable differences from the European region compared to the global averages. So that's why we didn't include them here on the slide. At the very top, we see BI and data analytics with a score of 7.8, followed closely then by chatbots and virtual assistants at 7.7. And other areas also show strong results, such as digital marketing and customer data management, both scoring at 7.2. and forecasting and revenue management. And what's important here is the overall perspective. With an average score of 6.9, the perceived value of AI is significantly higher than the level of trust in AI, which we saw in the beginning, which was only at 6.6. And also much higher than the current reliance on AI, which was only at 4.7. So while the comfort levels with AI are slowly increasing, the real bottleneck isn't just the trust. It's really all about the data, because without consistent and high quality and shareable data, scaling AI across an organization becomes very difficult. So let's take a look at what's actually holding hotels back. So the top barrier is actually the effective data usage, which was cited by 41% of the hotel chains and 43% in Europe. So this includes issues like data quality, accessibility, and integration. And close behind is cross-departmental sharing with 32%, but lower in Europe with only 28%. And then also having data silos, those remained a significant obstacle that is slowing down AI adoption. And what's striking is actually how few hotel chains have the right structures in place. So only 22% and actually 18% in Europe report having a centralized data structure to feed AI and automation tools. And just 21% use a centralized platform to ensure consistency across the different departments in the hotels. So while the ambition for AI seems to be very strong, the foundation for scaling it is still missing in a lot of organizations. One clear finding that we also saw before is that the formal AI strategy remain the exception rather than the rule, right? So 78% of the hotel chain mentioned that they had no formal AI strategy in place. So in Europe, this is actually a bit higher at 80%. So while they are already working a bit with AI, their initiatives are mostly experimental or limited to pilot projects. And only 8% say that they have an AI strategy at the department level without an overarching company-wide framework. And then 7% report a true company-wide AI strategy that is actually led by the senior leadership, like the CEO or CTO. And 6% have no AI strategy at all in place. So when it comes to AI investment, we also asked about the decision-making criteria. And the top priorities are ease of integration with existing systems, ranked at 70%, and that was actually even higher in Europe with 79%. Then the next one was reducing repetitive or manual tasks at 69%, and a proven impact on revenue growth. Again, 69%, but even more important in Europe with 79%. Our AI potential, interestingly, was only mentioned by 58% of the EU respondents compared to the 66% in the global average. And unsurprisingly, data security and compliance ranked higher in Europe than the global average, whereas the ability to enhance the guest room experience ranked the same. And looking at some of the other differences per region, Europe prioritizes integration and efficiency. As I mentioned, the Middle East and Africa actually place a very strong focus on ROI. And APAC highlights guest experience actually as the key differentiator. When we look at how AI impacts the staffing, training, and job roles, one thing becomes very clear. AI is currently mostly seen as an enabler rather than a replacer. So the majority, 66% of the hotel chains and 70% in Europe, say that AI is freeing staff to focus on more strategic and guest-facing work. And at the same time, the skills gap remain a real barrier, with about 38% or 36% in Europe reporting that staffing or capability shortages are slowing down the AI adoption. And when it comes to the workforce structure, AI seems to be reshaping roles rather than cutting jobs. So 25% of the chains report redefining responsibilities compared to just 13% that said that they are actively reducing team sizes. And here also a very interesting question that we included last year is we asked about the likelihood that the hotel chains see for a full automation for certain departments, certain functions by 2030, so in 5 years. So as you can see, we have a clear ranking. However, all of the different functions and departments received very strong response levels. So reservations and call centers ranked highest with 48% globally and actually 54% in Europe. Then followed closely by customer data management at 46%. Revenue management with 44%, but slightly lower in Europe with 39%. And then digital marketing at 43% and only 37% in Europe. But then, on the other hand, we had 1 in 4 respondents saying that they believe full automation will remain out of reach, citing costs, complexity, or data privacy concerns. So I was really surprised by the numbers here that so many believe that full automation will already be possible, but with all the ongoing developments and so on, and certainly very interesting and very fast how everything is developing. Yeah, those were the slides that I had prepared from the study. I'm really looking forward to your questions. And before we can dive in, I just wanted to give one plug here for our next study that is currently happening. So to all the hotel chains that are on the line here, and you want to give your feedback on where you stand with your AI implementation, we would highly appreciate your feedback. You can just scan the QR code that will take you to the survey for this year's study. And for this year, we're again focusing on AI, but are now diving deeper into the actual use cases that are happening and where real value can be derived from AI. And with that, thank you for allowing me to present here today.